2025, Football New South Wales successfully ran its second Club Development Conference. Featuring a variety of topics and speakers, the conference celebrated community football, and we're delighted to bring a few of these sessions to the Football New South Wales Community Podcast over the coming weeks. Our first episode covers Player and Spectator Behaviour, supporting referees. The panel discussion features Emma Kocbek, Football New South Wales Referees Development and Education Manager, Danny Horstead, Central Coast Football Referees Development Program Lead, and Alana Zick, Hills Football Female Referees Development Officer.
Now we may have to repeat some of the information in about 3 minutes' time, but I'm going to start with you, Emma, please, to start us off today. Through your experiences across the game, can you give a bit of perhaps background and context to what we're talking about here?
Yeah, I think the most important thing to understand, and I'm sure you guys all know this at a club level, is that we are essentially experiencing a referee shortage, but the reasons behind it probably aren't as kind of simple as we think. The reality is getting referees into the game isn't the most difficult part of building our referee community. There's a lot of benefits to refereeing, and it's pretty easy to sell that to people coming into the game. What we're really experiencing an issue with is holding on to our referees. And the best way to think of it is essentially we've got a bucket and it's got a massive hole in the bottom. So each year we're able to fill the bucket and we're just losing the same amount of referees. So I guess the question is, and something that we're grappling with, is how do we keep referees engaged? How do we keep them on the park, and how do we keep them in the referee community? And in understanding that question, a big part of it is acknowledging that the referee shortage and the referee issue is not just a referee problem, it's a whole of football issue. And so we really need everyone on board with tackling this, including clubs and people on the ground, because we need to be able to keep these referees in the game. The other thing that we're kind of struggling with is that while our referee numbers year on year are growing incrementally, if we had competitions the same size as they were 5 years ago, we would be able to service the game exactly how you want with 100% coverage. But the competitions are growing, participation numbers are growing, and we just haven't been able to grow the referee community in the same way because of these retention issues. So I think that's a bit about what we're going to talk about today on the panel. Is the experiences of the referees on match day is something that we can't control from our perspective. As much as we would love to be able to be out there at every field, every ground, we can't have people like Alana and Danny boots on the ground every weekend, every field. So we're really asking kind of every stakeholder, coaches, parents, players and club representatives to rally and help our referees stay on the park.
Thank you so much, Emma. For those of you that just joined us, Emma is the Referee Development Education Manager here at Football New South Wales. I'm going to hand that on to Alana now to talk to us about what perhaps you think the grassroots clubs can implement to support our referees. And Alana is the Female Referees Development Officer at Hills Football.
Yeah, so I think it's really important creating a supportive environment for them, first and foremost. Making them feel welcome will do a lot more than you think. So something as little as when referees arrive to, say, your local ground, just presenting yourself to them, introducing yourself, letting them know where they can leave their things, or if they need any help, who to ask, where to go. And things such as simple as asking them if they're okay, if they need any water, if they need any sunscreen, if they're feeling okay. It doesn't sound like much, but a little really does go a long way, and it will make them feel a little bit more appreciated, for sure. I know sometimes there's grounds, like there's certain clubs where they're looking for people, they don't even know where they can put their belongings, they don't know where to go, who to speak to, and that itself just doesn't really create a really welcoming environment, and they don't really feel supported. So it's all about making sure they're seen and just sort of looked after. Even though people have their disagreements, they could have a little bit of a hard game, but at the end of the day, most of them are just kids, and that first year of refereeing is the most important in order for them to return to refereeing and keep going, because that first year is the year we usually lose the most referees. So it's all about creating a good first impression, for sure.
Absolutely. In the middle, we've got Danny Horstead, the Referees Development Program Lead at Central Coast Football. Danny, can you tie those two together? We're talking about trying to attract and retain referees and the support that referees need. And it's not just clubs it's also players, it's also spectators. Where do you think the sweet spot is?
Yeah, I think, well, like Alana said, a couple of it's not big steps, it's just little things that can go a long way. One environment that we see also with senior football is it's one of those crossovers where we have juniors on senior games. So it may be a great atmosphere and whatnot environment, but we've got to remember we've got kids on the lines, and when you have those parents, their parents watching it, and it's a hostile environment, then that's one reason we can lose referees. They don't want them in that environment if they feel there's a bit of a safety issue. From a more technical point of view, something we've done at Central Coast that's really worked well is clubs send us, as a lot of clubs have the VOs, so they send us the VO link, and I will spend time, or we'll find people that can spend time going through a game, and we will find coaching material out of that for referees. And likewise as a club, rather than necessarily fronting up to referees and that on the day, if you can send that to referee departments and they can go through it, and then great, you've just created a coaching tool for the referee, or if need be, we can then also coach the club in terms of maybe a certain incident on the day as well.
Danny, I'm going to start with you for this one. I'd like an answer from all three of you to talk to perhaps your own experiences, an experience perhaps you had that wasn't so positive and one that was positive, and what support you got to make it that way.
Yeah, I remember when I was a junior a while ago, I remember that we were always told we had the ground marshals people with the vests, and they were the guys. It was one of my first local Premier League games. And when I walked off the ground, I was copping a hell of a lot of abuse, and three of them were the guys in the vests who were meant to be the people I was to go to. I was 18 at the time doing Premier League in the local comp, and it was one of my first ones. And then I'm like, yeah, I really felt like, what do I do? And when I was 18, I was about the size of a pencil, so like I was pretty intimidated by it. I had support in the referee network when I spoke to some of the older blokes there, and that's one reason why I kept coming back. But it would have been an easy way to go, well, that was my safety network, and then I didn't come back. And that's what some people may do.
And in line with that, thank you for sticking with it. We appreciate you braving it out, because I'm sure we lose many who find that experience quite toxic and don't want to return. How about an experience that you felt supported?
I've had a lot of very well supported games as well. And again, it comes from clubs. It sounds, and again, I'm talking from the sort of more senior point of view here, but doing a local game on park football and being offered a beer by the players afterwards is actually a really, really cool gesture. And it's not that you're mingling or becoming friends better with the team. At the end of the day, it's park football. We've done our job and we just want to get on with it. And I think that's a small gesture, but geez, it goes a long way. We're never really asking for big gestures. And likewise, I've had other teams where those supporting people as the marshal people have actually gone the other way and really helped me out as well. So it's not a focus on the negative. It's just those little positive steps go a long way.
Yeah, there's a real feeling of mateship there. Don't offer beers to your junior referees, please. Alana.
I'd say one of the earlier experiences I had whilst I was developing from the sort of local to a little bit more of a NPL space, I remember one time I was probably around maybe 17 or 16, and I was finishing a game, and there was this one coach that I had 3 weeks in a row, and this was the first week I had him. And it was a fine game, but he was a really emotional person, to the point where at the end of the game, he followed us to the change room and was at the door for us, and he just would not go away. This is like, I'd say, a 50, 60-year-old man following. We're all kids here at this point. We're all 16, 17, all the way up to the change room, just berating us nonstop, to the point where he's asked to leave outside the door. And at this point, we're just like, what do we do? We're cornered in a room. We have nowhere else to go. And the game itself was okay. Like, it could have been worse, but he was just a really emotional person, to the point where other staff from his coaching team would come in and apologise on behalf of him, and they'd say that he's like this every week and they're used to it and they're so sorry. So just things like that. Like, some people may be aware of like certain people that are causing problems with this, and it's just a matter of talking to them and making them aware that their behaviour is not okay. Like, even if they're unhappy with the sort of standard, there's channels to go through that and give feedback in a constructive way, not in the sort of way that will deter people from the game. And at the end of the day, we're just kids. So it's really important how you're delivering the feedback as well, and just being mindful. Like, I'm sure this same person has kids of his own. He wouldn't be doing this if it was their kids in their shoes, I guess. But yeah, just being aware, like, sometimes people, I think, forget that they are just kids at the end of the day. They've probably got school the next day. They're just trying their best, and they're just doing it for a bit of fun, a little bit of money, and they're just trying, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think anyone goes out to work to try and do a terrible job. And of course, that comes into the whole club being able to safeguard referees in that space. How about a positive experience that you've had?
I feel like I've had quite a few positive experiences, both across local and the NPL space. I think what I most enjoy about the local space is probably the community. So even before and after the game, you know the referees, like, you know the club people if you've been there long enough. So just sort of creating like a good connection, I'd say. Like, after the games, I enjoy having a chat to, say, even the coaches, both teams, like, just building a connection. At the end of the day, it is just local. Most people are there just to support their community and to have fun and just sort of embrace that sort of aspect, because that is what sort of local is all about, and that's why people enjoy it so much.
Yeah, thanks, Alana. And we are going to give you an opportunity to ask questions, and perhaps you've got things around refereeing in your club that you'd like to sort. But Emma, I'd like you to talk to us, first of all, about your experiences like the other two. I mean, you've seen every level, and you can tell us about the good, the bad and the ugly. But talk to us first about perhaps the most challenging thing you've had in clubland, because of course you're at elite level as well.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, every referee probably has a novel of poor experiences on the field. And I'm probably not going to go too deeply into that. But I think one of the most important things I've found when speaking to clubs and grassroots communities is understanding that the referees on their games are actually learning while they're on the games. So refereeing is a really hard skill to be able to practice without a match day environment. Referee branches and referee coaches like Alana and Danny and myself, we do our best to kind of emulate situations off the field on the training ground, similar to how you would with players, right? And we can do a fair bit of that, but it's not until you put a person onto the field on match day with that pressure that you can really understand which areas they need to improve on, how we need to work with them, what we need to practice with them, and what skills we need to build with them. And the thing that I've kind of been trying to take to clubs in my time at Football New South Wales is understanding that when you're looking at your referees on the small-sided games or those younger age groups, they're probably learning their craft as much as the players are as well. So our expectations for those referees need to kind of be in line with the standard that they're officiating, and acknowledging that they're new and they're learning and they're going to make mistakes in the same way that players make mistakes. Every time your player misses an open goal, our referee may have blown their whistle wrong or signalled the wrong way. So we've kind of got to give them that grace to learn, because if we don't give them that grace to learn on those kind of lower level games, and with that kind of, I say, safer environment, because those lower age groups, particularly small-sided games, shouldn't be about winning, right? It should be about developing skills. Then we'll be able to create an environment where the referees can learn, they have a safe environment to build those skills, and then we can put them into those more challenging matches. What we're seeing is that it's at those levels that referees are really copping a lot of abuse. The match day experience isn't enjoyable for them, and they're not given the room to breathe, to be able to learn and make decisions. So we really need to focus on kind of that environment at the community junior level, giving those referees the space to grow and develop, because as soon as we lose them from the game, if they've had 2 games experience, a season's worth of experience, if we lose them, we've lost that learning, right? And we've got to start from scratch with another referee. And every time we do that, we're losing more and more kind of investment in that person. The other thing just to remember with that as well is that every time we lose someone from refereeing, there's a good chance that we lose them from the game completely, which is one of our worst fears as kind of referee organisers. Is it's one thing to lose a referee, they might not pick up the whistle again, but they go back to playing or coaching or administrating. But worst case scenario is we lose them to football altogether because they've had such a disengaged experience. And when we're turning people away from a sport that we're all really in love with and really passionate about, That's where the key issue is, and we don't want to be pushing people away from football altogether.
Brilliant. Folks, do we have a mic? Have we got a microphone? Yep. Has anyone at this point got a question? Oh, yeah, here we go.
Thanks, ladies, for what you're sharing. It's really great. I've got a question. With the increasing number of female referees, and as we're trying to upgrade our facilities at the club, we've also reached the point where we've only got one change room for referees. Now, that traditionally, when the facility was built, was not a problem. We now have the problem where we have, for female referees, having to use our female change rooms, which again isn't appropriate because of the contact with players in an uncontrolled environment. So how would you suggest, because obviously trying to build new facilities is a big part of it, any easy fixes to that question?
Thank you. Who would like to take this one?
I can jump on this from a kind of overall management perspective. Obviously, ideally we have the infrastructure in place, but that's not always the case. I guess if I reel it back, and this probably isn't the case with your specific club, but oftentimes the referee spaces aren't open to the referees, full stop. So that's kind of something we need to address first. Are there referee spaces? Are they unlocked? Are they being used to store gear? Can the referees find them? Once that's kind of been worked out, I think it's more a discussion with your referee body to say, hey, we've got this space at the field. We have one space. Can you let your referees know on the day that this is going to be the situation, and let the referees kind of work out how they want to manage it as best as possible. It might be the case that the referee branch tells their female crews, okay, you guys are going to have the change room for this day. You guys are going to get priority, and our male referees, can I ask you guys to change in the car or change before you get to the field? You can store your stuff in there, but please leave it as a space for the females.
Danny, Alana, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think just giving them the option and making them aware of the spaces is probably the main thing. A lot of the times I know change rooms, usually females, they'll, like in an ideal world, a lot of the guys usually offer to step outside and let the females just have the room while they get changed, which is also a good incentive. But just making sure the referees in general, I'd say, are aware of that space, because a lot of these grounds don't even have a room that's accessible to them. But just making sure they're aware, in a perfect world, if they've got that sort of option for a female-only change room, just making sure they know and that they're welcomed and they feel comfortable enough to speak to any of you at the grounds if they have any issues.
Happy with that, Danny? Yeah. Before we go to the next question, obviously if any of you are building new facilities, there is a recent round of government grants that came out after the FIFA Women's World Cup that was specifically addressing infrastructure, which was applicable for diversity and inclusion. So make sure that you consider the referees when you're looking at your change rooms, not just the players, but the referees as well. Let's take another question over here.
Thank you, Emma, Danny, and Alana. My question is in two parts. Part one, in your approach to the training program for refs, after your initial assessment, what would you say the top 3 skills that you're finding it's not being formed in a new ref? That's part one. I'll let you answer that, then I'll ask part 2.
Was that the top 3 skills in a new ref?
Yes.
Yeah, generally when the referees are coming through, especially the younger guys breaking into it, they're normally fit. Their technical ability, because they're taught read the rule book, so they learn the rule book. They're probably the first 2 that they nail. And then probably a third one is that they start learning about positioning, which is separate to fitness. The one void to it is that often as these guys are coming through, that they can apply that, they have those rules, but they can't actually apply it to a match scenario to sort of sell the decisions and whatnot. So you'll see referees do technically great decisions, but they're not being sold and they cop it because they've got it's a bit like, to put it in perspective, everyone has been watching the VAR, the video on the NRL. When you break it down like that, yes, they've found it technically in the rule that's the problem, and that's where the young referees coming through do have. It's then being able to apply it in a game scenario where it fits the match type thing, and that takes years. Like, I feel like as a referee, one of my strengths is being able to manage players and hothead players. It wasn't until I was about 30 that I could do that, because I've been in business and I've been an adult and working around it. When I was 18, I was probably technically better. I was definitely fitter, but I didn't manage those games, where now I feel one reason I get some games, I think, in the NPL is I can manage them. There's a lot of quicker, faster, more technically better referees than me, but it's about that management skills, and that takes time, and that's really hard to teach.
Either of you want to add to that? And your second part.
Thank you, Daniel. You touched on it a bit. We can all appreciate, we ref games also. Sometimes referee doesn't show up, so we ref games, and we can all agree this. Some players shouldn't be on the pitch at all. But the thing is that sometimes what you just said that actually causes the problem, player management. How do you guys look when you train a new ref? How do you look about it, like in business when we, go to a job, they train us on certain issues that you're gonna face and how to deal with it. In that aspect, what do you guys put in place for the referees to be able to manage the hard-headed players? Again, we can all agree there's some players, they shouldn't be on the pitch in the first place, but unfortunately that's never gonna finish. There'll always be those players. It's the fact that how do you equip that ref to actually deal with that at a young age? Thank you.
Touching on sort of where I was there's scenarios where there's a hot-headed player that is in the heat of the moment, and teaching referees about how to put cold water on it and know that that's a heat of the moment, as long as they haven't gone too far, where as opposed to, and one thing we're trying to teach referees is don't go looking for a card. Don't go looking for a yellow and a second yellow. See if you've got a way out of that first. And it may be a hot-headed player. It may be go and talk to the captain because this player's on his limit. Giving them these other tools so that you've got about 5 things in your weaponry, and the yellow and red card is your 4th and 5. Use everything else. Quiet word, public warnings, talk to captain, talk to coach at half-time if you have that ability. So you've used those other steps. So basically, because when a lot of decisions come down to it, we use a step of considerations. Then we've gone, look, I've used everything in my arsenal. I have no other choice with this player. Rarely do you get to that number 5 and that instant red card. If you've used those steps, you've given the team every option to get involved and change that behaviour. I know in a lot of local comps, the sin binning for the descent helped a lot with juniors as well, because it let them have they had their spray, they had their 10-minute or 5-minute sin bin depending on the comp, but they got to come back. You hadn't completely killed off the team, and I think that helped a lot of junior referees as well.
Sorry, just to quickly add, I think it's also very important to strengthen your local referee branch, just because a lot of this also relates to the training they receive, and I know locally sometimes particular branches aren't as strong as others and don't have as much referees as other associations do, and making sure that they do have a training program and they are able to work on these things, because the more they attend the training, the more they push to attend the training, the better outcome it is for everyone. So it's really important to try to sort of push it as an association to better themselves as well, because without training they won't be improving as much as they are just doing games every weekend or so, because training is where we are teaching these sort of management techniques and how to sort of deal with these tricky situations.
I think also we're all aware that there's not just individuals you're looking out for, but you all know when one of your teams go to play a club, there's always going to be trouble. Is there a word of advice, or should clubs be putting extra support in place around those games for the referees?
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be local derbies. There's always going to be matches that are going to hold more weight than others. And you guys are as aware of that as much as the referees are. And I think if you know those situations are popping up, it is a case of making sure that your club officials are really on top of those match day procedures and making sure that there's a kind of, essentially a procedure in place to help manage that, whether it's making sure that those ground officials are jacketed all day, easily accessible, and are people who are going to be comfortable in those roles. It's one thing to give an orange bib to mum or dad on the sideline, who's going to sit in their chair for the whole day. But it's another thing to give it to someone that's actually going to be comfortable standing up, having a look around the grounds, making sure that there are no issues. And with those jacketed officials as well, we're not asking people to get into confrontations. We're not asking them to put themselves in situations where it's going to cause more escalation. But what we are asking of them is to be there and be visible, and to play an active role in either reporting an issue, trying to cool down a situation, or at the very least submitting reports about incidents. Because if you think a situation is too confrontational for a grown adult with kind of the additional protection of wearing a club vest is, if you think that's going to be too confrontational, then imagine how the referee is feeling, probably a junior on the field, can't actually take much action against them. So just kind of strengthening those procedures on those kind of game days to make sure that if we have those in place, hopefully things will just run a little bit smoother.
Great, thank you. In the middle, near the back.
Thanks so much. I think our club's doing a great job of embedding a great deal of respect for referees on match day. But hearing you today talk about they are often kids, they are often learning, that really resonated with me. And that's one of the most common conversations we have on the sideline. And that is, the players make mistakes, the players are learning, so are they, the match officials. We've got an open line of communication. That resulted in names being removed from matchday sheets. And I'm wondering if it's like a learner or a red P-plater or a fully licensed driver. Is there, let's reimagine how we let people know that they're a beginner. In the match day paperwork, in the registration, the details within, whether it's play football or dribble, whatever, would it be helpful to know that it's a learner on the sideline, that it's a red P-plater on the sideline? Would it be beneficial for us to be able to say to our coaches, managers, back off this kid before the game starts? Give them some opportunity. I think the word you used was grace. Give them some grace. Allow them to become better officials in the same way that we encourage our players to become better sportsmen. How do you think that could work?
Yeah, I definitely think that's a great incentive. We have a number of associations and referee branches employing that kind of tactic. So there's programs like green armbands for under 18s, teal shirts for first year referees where they have to wear a specific colour for their whole first year. And it's like you said, it just puts a bit of a spotlight on the fact that they are learning, similar to the way L plates do, and hopefully gives them that bit of leeway with the coaches and players. I think those kind of public ones, like the armbands and the teal shirts, work well because there's no requirement on the clubs or the coaches to then go to the parents and say, hey, give them some grace. It's very obvious to everyone. And then it's very obvious to everyone as well if someone's kind of standing up and not treating them with respect. Everyone can see, okay, you're yelling at a kid here. Do we think it's appropriate? So I definitely think that they're great initiatives, and Football New South Wales can definitely support any clubs or associations that looking to bring in those kind of things. We can give you some case studies and work through kind of best avenues for you if you wanted to implement that locally.
Yes, over on the left.
One of the big things referees have the personality for, it's a confrontation management. Your front line, pretty much the same as the police. You're there to adjudicate between two groups who may not have the same opinion on things. Do you, when people apply, is it made clear to them that if you're not good with confrontation, maybe it's not for you or you need to work on that? Do you offer anything in those sort of frontline management style training, which is to do with confrontation management, how to de-escalate, respect, those sort of things?
I'll start off on this one and then I'll throw to Alana or Danny. I think something important to remember is that, yes, the referees are enforcing the laws of the game, but at the end of the day, we're talking about football. We're talking about decisions on a field. We're playing a sport. This isn't life or death situations. And when we talk about confrontations, we shouldn't be thinking about these referees are going in and breaking up fights or these kind of really high intense level situations. I agree that there's an element of communication and people management skills that is a requirement to be a great referee, but we're not in the business of trying to turn away people. What we're in the business of is if someone shows an interest in refereeing, that probably shows an element of leadership in that they want to be a part of it, they want to try it out. And when we work with them, what we try and do is we try and tease out that kind of leadership element and really build them up into it. It's true, some people are not going to be able to continue because they're not going to like those kind of situations, and that's completely fine. Those kind of people, we understand that refereeing isn't right for them, but on the flip side, we're going to find people who, after showing that initial leadership of putting their hand up to referee, go, yeah, I really like this and I want to continue, and then we'll support them in building those skills to manage players and manage those higher intensity environments. And the people that can build those skills really well, like Danny and Alana, will become really good referees over time.
I think just on that point in terms of what we can teach them is that, and it's something that we're trying to work with in a management style, is that you may have a confrontational thing, you may be even a question over a certain decision, but if, especially from a club world, at the end of it, if it's coming from a coach, for example, if it can just be respectful, we're trying to teach the referees that you answer it if it's in a respectful way, yeah? So at the end of the day, a coach may just want an explanation on a decision, but if he comes up screaming and yelling, we can't add to that because no one's going to get anywhere. But if you can come up and have a respectful and go, yep, talk and walk with me, and I'll give you how I saw it, 9 times out of 10, I appreciate all they want is the answer. It's just the way you go about it. So if we go about it the right way, we're trying to also give those referees those skills to respond to them. Don't tell them to go away. Give them the answer if they've come up to you in the right way, and then we've basically got the same outcome that everyone wanted, yeah?
Hi guys, Lawrence from the Pumas, and I sometimes can't believe that we're having to have the conversation of why it's wrong for an adult to yell at a 14-year-old person, but I feel like we do too often, so I'm sorry that you have to deal with that. But I suppose I want to know, what can we be doing backwards in our community to provide feedback to them around behaviour and around what's acceptable in whatever ways you think or you've seen that's effective? We try as hard as we can, but I'm not sure what the sort of communal view is of that. And my second question is, how do we close the loop? A lot of parents, I think, would feel good about the fact that feedback has gone to referees and then actually, yeah, we have addressed that. It's a learning, right? So I'm hoping that if we provide that also, last Sunday we had an incident, you know, and this was the feedback that went, and we acknowledge it. There was some development there. I'm hoping that by doing that, that we can provide that sort of that view to the adults that yes, we are closing the loop. Yes, we are developing our kids, in hopes that they would be calmer in approaching the situation. So, again, twofold question. A, what are your views on what works already that I can adopt? And B, is there anything we can tap into so we can close the loop back for feedback in our community saying this is what is actually being addressed?
2 answers on that, obviously. First one that I can speak of, and I'm talking from a real junior level on the Central Coast, in the mini football space, is they provide cadet referees, and no parent is allowed to talk to them. Most of those cadet referees are from the club. They're not from they're too young. But the idea is that those referees cannot be approached or spoken to. You have to talk through the club, and that gets those kids refereeing at the cadet level. I'm talking mini soccer. But then when they get to 13, then they've already had a taste for it. Then we can get onto them and sign them up to do our stuff. The other one was on the accessibility, and that's something that I think I would encourage, and I touched on with that VO stuff, is that a lot of the time, and again, NRL as an example, you'll see a coach at the press conference blowing up, telling he's going to ring the NRL. But if you do approach it in the way that, look, we had an incident on the weekend, and as you said, it was in this game, this is sort of what happened, most referee bodies want to find out too. And again, it could be that we've got to coach that referee, but then I know I've got to coach that referee. If I'm lucky enough to have the video, I can clip it and go, mate, this is the video, and it may just be an interpretation wrong. Likewise, it could be that a club is upset about something, but then I can look at it and go, you know what, that's the rule that got tweaked this year, like the handball rule got tweaked for the millionth time this year. And then I can go back to the club and go, you guys Just the interpretation is different, and they've changed it, and here it is. And then you could feed that to your club and go, hey, we're pulling the wrong thing up. We're abusing the guy for a rule that was 3 years ago. Here's a chance for the referees to come to you guys and go, look, this is just where it's been tweaked, and I hope that helps you moving forward.
Ball to hand or hand to ball, it's a topic of many pub conversations. Alana, what have you got to add there?
What was the second part of the question?
The feedback, closing the loop, getting the word to the community.
Oh yeah, I think just definitely connecting with your referees branch coordinator would be a good step. Even if you've got any concerns or feedback, I think contacting them and letting them know if you had any issues match day, just so everyone's aware, and then that gets fed through to the referees development sort of panel, and then say if they've got a weekly training, then they get to speak about that there, and then now everyone's aware of, say, if there was a certain situation, everyone was unsure what to do, now everyone's on the same page. So then just cycling it through, just making sure you let them know as well, as long as it's in like a non-confrontational matter, but just getting that feedback, passing it over. It could even be positive feedback. Like, we get quite a lot of positive emails from different clubs or different coaches saying, hey, this person did really well. It looked like it was their first year, but just wanted to let you know and pass it on. And then we can pass it on to them, and it's really encouraging for especially those first year kids. So it's a matter of just connecting with all the people in your community, and then that just sort of gets the cycle going, and then it benefits everyone really.
Nice, thank you. We have time for 2 more questions. One is in the middle. You already have the microphone. Just 1 second, then we'll come to you. Just before we do that, I just want to ask you quickly on the large-scale things that are done, the shush round. Successful, or how did you see that?
Yeah, initiatives like Shush for Kids and things like that do have an impact. I think whenever you're putting a specific focus on something, it does hold a lot of weight for that short period of time. I think the issue with these kind of things is often we're quite reactive, right? So we have a big referee incident. The reaction is, okay, we're going to do some respect initiatives. When reality is we kind of need to have these things scheduled in, locked in, and continuing throughout the season, and as constant reminders. So it was like Danny said, with the small-sided games, if you've got a situation where you're telling clubs, please do not approach the referees directly, that is not the avenue to do it, then we need to keep enforcing that as the season goes on, because then it becomes really effective. It's always front of people's mind, and it can't just be kind of an afterthought of, okay, we'll implement it this weekend because we think we need to, and then we'll forget about it for the rest of the season. So they are really important initiatives. They can show a lot of value. We're just got to make sure that we stay on top of those messages.
Nice. Okay, question at the back and then one here.
Hey legends, Christian Leyland from ACU Football Club. Not so much a question, just sharing something quickly which worked for our club, which increased the player behaviour towards referees, which maybe other clubs can learn from. So we started a club referee program where we funded, so uniforms, training, everything for people from within and around our club to become referees. The aim was actually just to help the referee shortage, but the byproduct was a very visual and evident improvement in player behaviour towards all referees. I think having referees in the club, familiar faces, they're no longer faceless people, and being advocates within the club of referees actually improved the player behaviour towards all referees whenever our teams played. Because we're mainly a senior club and seniors can get a bit more aggro, it was a little bit of an issue for us, and we saw a huge improvement from it this year just by having a lot of referees around it in the club.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you for sharing that. It is always a case when you personalise it, isn't it, that you create a situation where it becomes much harder for people to be abusive. Last question up here.
Sorry, this isn't a question either, but I just wanted to say thank you. You all are so important to getting our teams on the field, but I just wanted to point out that, following on for that last comment, it is important that as clubs that we're all sitting in here, it's not just about the first year refs. It's not just about the kid refs. It's about you experienced refs as well. You're human, you will make a mistake, and we have to respect every referee, no matter if we've seen them 1,000 times and they're meant to be the best one out there. We cannot disrespect decisions made on the field. So I just wanted to point that out because there seems to be a lot of, like, we're always focused on those young people, but our experienced refs deserve that respect as well.
Here, and to the three of you, thank you for everything that you do for the game. Did you want to add anything in closing?
I'll just add from a Football New South Wales perspective, if there is any clubs or associations that do want to work on those kind of initiatives locally, please reach out to me and we can chat through what might work best. We can get you in touch with people like Danny and Alana who are doing things locally so you can see whether there's something that you can adapt. Please reach out to us because, yeah, if we have everyone on board, I think we can really make a difference in that referee space.
Lovely, thank you so much. I did see a couple of other hands start to go out. We're going to break for lunch, but if you wanted to come forward and ask these three wonderful people anything, you can do that now while they're trapped on stage. But for now, folks, would you please thank Alana, Danny and Emma. Thank you so very much.